The enemy's cage. Captain Valeria Frost couldn't feel her legs. She blinked against the harsh blue light flooding her containment cell, trying to bring the world back into focus. The chitinous walls around her pulsed with an organic glow, reminding her that she wasn't in any human-made prison. This was a Qatari holding facility, and by all accounts, she should already be dead. The last thing she remembered was the bridge of her ship, the Intrepid, as it broke apart around her. The Qatari ambush had come from nowhere, a swarm of their crystalline vessels erupting from what seemed like empty space. Her crew had fought valiantly, but Valeria had ordered the evacuation before the final breach. She should have gone with them, but captains had their duties. Now, as feelings slowly returned to her extremities, she catalogued her situation. The cell was hexagonal, roughly 5 meters across. One wall was transparent, giving her a view of a curved corridor beyond. The air carried a strange scent, something like cinnamon and ozone. She wore what appeared to be a simple gray smock, and her military implants had been deactivated. She could feel the dead weight of the neural link at the base of her skull. "You are conscious." "Good." The voice came from everywhere and nowhere, a discordant collection of clicks and whistles underlaid with a mechanical translation. Valeria straightened her spine, military training taking over. "Captain Valeria Frost, Terran Alliance Fleet, ID 87392-A. We know who you are, Captain." A figure approached the transparent barrier. It was tall, nearly 7 feet, with a segmented exoskeleton gleaming iridescent blue-green in the light. 6 limbs, 2 larger arms, 2 smaller, more dexterous appendages at mid-torso, and 2 powerful legs. Its head was dominated by compound eyes that refracted light like shattered gemstones. This was the enemy. The Qatari had appeared at the edges of human space 15 years ago. First contact had been a massacre, an entire colony world reduced to ash. The war had raged ever since, with humans fighting an enemy they barely understood. "I am Research Overseer Nemec," the creature said, its mandibles clicking softly as it spoke. "You will provide information." "Captain Valeria Frost, Terran Alliance Fleet, ID 87392-A, she repeated, keeping her voice steady. The Qatari tilted its head, an oddly human gesture. "That response is anticipated but inefficient. You misunderstand your situation, Captain. You are not here for military interrogation." Valeria frowned. "Then why am I alive?" "Study." Nemec's voice remained flat through the translator. "You are the highest-ranking human captured intact. The High Nest wishes to understand your decision processes. Your leadership qualities." A chill ran through her. Vivisection, then. She'd heard rumors of Qatari experiments on human prisoners. "I won't cooperate with torture," she said. "Torture is inefficient," Nemec replied, almost sounding offended. "Damaged subjects yield compromised data." The alien approached the barrier, its movements fluid despite the rigid exoskeleton. Up close, Valeria could see intricate patterns etched into its carapace, not natural formations but deliberate markings. Art? Rank insignia? She wasn't sure. "You will be observed. Tested. When study concludes, you will be rendered down for resource reclamation. Executed and recycled." At least the alien was honest. "How long do I have?" she asked. "Standard cycle. 27 of your days." With that, Nemec turned and walked away, leaving Valeria alone with the knowledge of her expiration date. The tests began the next day. Some were physical, obstacle courses, reflex evaluations, endurance trials. Others were cognitive puzzles, strategic simulations, or ethical quandaries presented through a holographic interface. Valeria participated minimally at first, but boredom and the instinct to survive eventually won out. She began engaging with the tests, if only to occupy her mind. She saw Nemec regularly. The Qatari scientist observed most sessions personally, making notes on a crystalline tablet. Unlike the other Qatari researchers, who treated her like a laboratory specimen, Nemec occasionally asked direct questions. Why sacrifice tactical advantage to evacuate non-essential personnel? Nemec inquired on the 5th day, after Valeria completed a battle simulation. They weren't non-essential. They were my crew. Valeria wiped sweat from her brow. Humans don't abandon their own. Inefficient, Nemec stated, but there was something in the tilt of its head that suggested curiosity rather than dismissal. On the 8th day, Valeria noticed something strange. When the other researchers left the observation room, Nemec remained, watching her through the barrier. After ensuring they were alone, the Qatari approached the cell. Your performance exceeds parameters, Nemec said quietly. The others are concerned. Concerned that a human might be competent. Valeria snorted. Concerned that you do not match the profile. Nemec's voice lowered further. The savagery index is too low. The what? According to military intelligence, humans are savage, instinct-driven conquerors. Your species initiated this conflict to expand territory. You destroy without purpose. Valeria stared at the alien. That's not true. Your kind attacked us. Meridian Colony was peaceful, there were families, children there. Nemec's compound eyes seemed to flicker. The Meridian engagement was retaliatory. Human forces destroyed a hatchery outpost in the Vega Drift. No. Valeria shook her head firmly. There were no human ships in that sector before the Meridian attack. It's documented. For a long moment, Nemec was silent. Then, perhaps documentation on both sides is incomplete. Before Valeria could respond, the alien turned away as another researcher entered the room. On the 12th day, they moved her to a new cell. This one was larger, with a pool of luminescent liquid in the center that Nemec explained contained nutrients her body required. The transparent wall now displayed images of Earth, mountains, oceans, cities. Whether this was meant as comfort or psychological torture, Valeria couldn't tell. That night, as the facility's lights dimmed to simulate darkness, she heard a soft tapping on the wall. A section slid open, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside was a small crystalline device. When she touched it, it projected a holographic interface with Qatari script that gradually morphed into English. Official narratives compromised. Investigating discrepancies. Trust required. Valeria stared at the message. Was this a trap? A test of her loyalty? The message changed, time limited. Execution order moved forward. 8 days remaining. Her heart raced. She had believed she had more time. Why help me? She typed back, fingers trembling slightly. The response came immediately, war based on lie. Both sides manipulated. Need human perspective to find truth. Who are you? She asked. Nemec. Former military strategist. Now researcher. Questioning official history. Valeria hesitated. This could still be an elaborate ruse. But what choice did she have? What do you need from me? She typed. Tomorrow. Final test. Failed deliberately. Will create opportunity. The device went dark, retracting into the wall and leaving Valeria alone with her thoughts. Could she trust a Qatari? The very idea seemed absurd. These creatures had been humanity's nightmare for 15 years. Yet something in Nemec's communication rang true. If there was even a chance that this war was built on falsehoods. She made her decision before sleep took her. The final test was simple, kill or be killed. They placed her in an arena with another prisoner, not human, but a quadrupedal alien species she didn't recognize. The creature looked emaciated and terrified. Around them, Qatari observers watched from elevated platforms, Nemec among them. Only one leaves, came the announcement. Demonstrate human combat efficiency. Valeria sized up her opponent. The alien was weak but desperate. It had natural claws that could do damage if cornered. She charged, as expected of her. But instead of attacking, she feinted and deliberately stumbled, leaving herself exposed. The creature hesitated, clearly confused by her vulnerability. From the observation deck, she heard chittering discussions. Disappointment. Confusion. The arena lights suddenly dimmed, plunging the space into near darkness. Emergency sirens wailed. Through the chaos, she felt a presence beside her. "Follow," Nemec said, appearing from a side entrance. "Now." Valeria didn't hesitate. She ran after the Qatari through winding corridors, passing emergency bulkheads and confused guards. Nemec moved with surprising speed, using access panels to open routes that were clearly restricted. "Why are you doing this?" Valeria gasped as they paused in a maintenance shaft. Nemec's compound eyes fixed on her. "I accessed sealed archives. Found first contact protocols. Evidence of third-party interference. Someone wanted this war, Captain Frost. Neither humans nor Qatari initiated hostilities. Who then? Unknown. But profitable for weapons developers on both sides." Nemec's mandibles clicked rapidly, frustration, perhaps. "My clutchkin died believing they fought monsters. Your people too, yes." Valeria nodded, thinking of her own sister, lost in the Battle of Procyon. "We reach Shuttle Bay soon. You know how to pilot?" "Yes, but..." "I loaded navigation data. Coordinates to neutral space. Evidence cached there. You're coming with me?" Valeria asked, surprised. "Must. AM traitor now." Nemec's translator couldn't convey emotion, but the slump of its posture spoke volumes. "No return possible." They reached a juncture, and Nemec paused, head tilted in that now familiar way. "If wrong about you, if humans truly are what archives say, you will kill me once safe." Acceptable risk. Valeria studied the alien who was risking everything on a theory, and on her. "I'm not what your archives say. And I think you're not what ours say either." For the first time, she extended her hand toward the Qatari, palm up, a human gesture of trust. After a moment's hesitation, Nemec placed one delicate, chitinous appendage against her palm. "We go," the alien said. "Together." They moved forward through the flashing emergency lights, an unlikely alliance formed in the heart of enemy territory, two beings united by a growing suspicion that the real enemy was not each other, but the lie that had set their worlds aflame. Flight beyond stars. The shuttle burst from the docking bay in a shower of sparks, its engines screaming as Valeria pushed them beyond safety protocols. Behind them, the Qatari research facility was in chaos, alert klaxons visible even through the vacuum of space as security protocols activated across the massive structure. "They've deployed pursuit craft," Nemec announced, six-fingered hands dancing across the crystalline navigation console. The Qatari's normally iridescent carapace had dulled to a matte blue-gray, a sign of stress, Valeria had learned. 7 vessels. Heavy armament. Valeria grimaced, feeling sweat bead along her hairline as she executed a tight spiral maneuver. The shuttle wasn't built for combat evasion, but during her 15 years fighting the Qatari, she'd learned their pursuit patterns. "Can you access their tactical frequency?" she asked, banking hard toward a debris field, the remnants of some ancient battle that now orbited the gas giant below. Nemec's compound eyes flickered with light patterns that Valeria had come to recognize as concentration. "Yes, but they will know. They already know. We need any advantage we can get." With a series of clicks that the translator didn't bother interpreting, what Valeria assumed was the Qatari equivalent of cursing, Nemec interfaced directly with the communications array, mandibles working rapidly as chemical signals from its exoskeleton interacted with the biotech components. Immediately, the cabin filled with the harsh, clicking language of the Qatari military. Translation. Valeria asked, threading the shuttle through a particularly dense section of debris. "They have identified you as the primary target," Nemec said, voice flat through the mechanical translator. "I am an unexpected complication. The nest protector has ordered my immediate termination." Valeria shot a glance at her unlikely companion. "Who's the nest protector?" "High Commander Vrex. Military overseer of this sector." Nemec's secondary arms twitched in what might have been agitation. "Also, my clutch sibling." The implications hit Valeria like a physical blow. "You betrayed your own family to help me." "To discover truth," Nemec corrected, though there was a new rigidity to its posture. "Family bonds are strong, but truth must be stronger. Or we are no better than the mindless hive parasites of the outer reaches." A proximity alarm screamed as energy weapons fire streaked past the shuttle, close enough that the shields flared bright purple with the strain. "We can't outrun them forever," Valeria said, executing another evasive maneuver. "What were those coordinates you mentioned?" Nemec projected a star chart onto the main view screen. "The Helios Expanse. Unclaimed territory. A trading outpost called Nexus Point. Neutral ground?" "Yes. Neither human nor Qatari territory. Frequented by 17 sentient species for commerce." Valeria studied the NAV route and frowned. "That's 3 days at maximum speed, and we don't have enough fuel for direct transit. We'll need to slingshot around the gas giant and make at least one stop." Another barrage of weapons fire rocked the shuttle. One of the secondary systems exploded in a shower of sparks, causing Nemec to recoil. "We have more immediate concerns," the Qatari noted dryly. Valeria's mind raced. Standard tactics wouldn't work here, they were outgunned and outnumbered. But she hadn't become the youngest captain in the Terran fleet by following the rulebook. "The rings," she said suddenly, pointing toward the massive, glittering bands that circled the gas giant below. "They're rich in ferrous compounds and radioactive isotopes. Should play hell with their sensors." "And ours," Nemec pointed out. "I'll fly by instinct." When Nemec's compound eyes fixed on her with what seemed like skepticism, she added, "Trust goes both ways, remember." After a moment's hesitation, Nemec nodded and secured itself to the co-pilot's chair with additional restraints. Valeria grinned fiercely and cut the main engines, letting momentum carry them as she fired only the maneuvering thrusters, sending them into a steep dive toward the planet's rings. Behind them, the pursuit craft hesitated, clearly not expecting such a reckless maneuver. "They follow," Nemec reported, watching the sensors. "Good." They hit the outer edge of the rings at nearly 40,000 kilometers per hour. The shuttle shuddered violently as micro-impacts pelted the shields. Valeria navigated purely by sight, weaving between larger fragments, some the size of small moons. The sensor array went dark almost immediately, overwhelmed by interference. "Can't they track our heat signature?" Valeria asked, hands never stopping their dance across the controls. "Not in this." Nemec gestured to the swirling chaos outside. "Too much radiation. But they know our destination now. They monitored the navigational calculations. Then we changed destinations." Valeria smiled grimly. "What's near here that isn't Nexus Point?" Nemec consulted a star chart from memory. "Abandoned mining colony. Asteroid belt. Praxis system. Perfect. We'll make for Praxis, lose them there, then double back to Nexus." As they plunged deeper into the rings, the pursuing ships fell further behind, unwilling to risk the same reckless approach. By the time they emerged on the far side of the planet, only 3 of the original 7 pursuers remained visible. Valeria gunned the engines, using the gravitational pull of the gas giant to accelerate them toward a jump point. "We did it," she breathed, allowing herself a moment of relief. "Temporarily," Nemec cautioned. "Vrex will not stop. And when your people learn of your escape with a Qatari scientist." The implication hung in the air between them. They were both traitors now, hunted by their own people. You said you had evidence, Valeria said, setting the autopilot once they were clear of immediate danger. About who really started the war. Nemec reached into a compartment in its exoskeleton and removed a small crystalline data storage device. Not complete. Fragments. Records of communications before official first contact. Weapons shipments from unknown origins to both sides. Falsified attack reports. Valeria took the device, turning it over in her hands. Why didn't you take this to your leadership? Attempted. Nemec's translator couldn't convey emotion, but the droop of its antennae spoke volumes. Was reassigned to Research Division. Placed under observation. The war is profitable for some. It's the same on our side, Valeria admitted, thinking of the military-industrial complex that had flourished during the conflict. The noble war against the alien threat justifies anything: suspension of civil liberties, resource rationing, emergency powers. While weapons manufacturers grow wealthy, Nemec added. And military leaders gain power, Valeria finished, the pieces falling into place. Classic war profiteering, just on an interstellar scale. They lapsed into silence as the shuttle hurtled through space, two enemies united by a common suspicion, that they had been pawns in a much larger game. The Praxis asteroid belt was a graveyard of abandoned mining equipment and derelict stations. Once a thriving industrial center, it had been evacuated early in the war when it fell into disputed territory. Now it served as a haven for smugglers, deserters, and others who existed in the margins between the warring powers. Valeria docked their stolen shuttle at an abandoned refueling platform, attaching with manual clamps when the automated systems failed to respond. The station was dark, running on emergency power only, its atmosphere thin but breathable. We should gather supplies and fuel, then continue to Nexus Point, Nemec suggested as they explored the dimly lit corridors of the station. Valeria nodded, keeping her makeshift weapon, a length of pipe, at the ready. I don't like this place. Too quiet. As if summoned by her words, a clatter echoed from a nearby junction. Both Valeria and Nemec froze, turning toward the sound. We're not alone, Valeria whispered. 3 figures emerged from the shadows. 2 were human, dressed in mismatched armor bearing the scars of combat. The third was a species Valeria didn't recognize, reptilian, with a crest of spines along its skull. All 3 carried weapons. Well, said the lead human, a woman with a scarred face and cold eyes. Interesting company you're keeping, Captain. Valeria stiffened. You know who I am. The woman smiled without warmth. Captain Valeria Frost of the Terran Alliance. Hero of the Procyon engagement. Your face has been on recruitment posters for years. Her gaze shifted to Nemec. And a Qatari scientist. Unusual travel companions. We're just passing through, Valeria said carefully. No one's just passing through Praxis these days, the woman replied. I'm Commander Juno Vex. Former Terran Special Operations. This is my first officer, Talon, and our security chief, Drax. The reptilian nodded curtly. Former. Valeria picked up on the key word. Let's just say I asked too many questions about who was really benefiting from this war. Juno's expression hardened. The next day, my team was sent on a suicide mission. I was the only survivor, and officially, I died there too. Valeria and Nemec exchanged glances. We've been asking the same questions, Valeria said carefully. Juno studied them for a long moment, then lowered her weapon. Then you'd better come with us. Praxis isn't as abandoned as it looks, and not everyone here is friendly to truth seekers. Juno's base of operations was hidden deep within the asteroid belt, inside a hollowed-out mining rock reinforced with salvaged military-grade shielding. Inside, Valeria was surprised to find a diverse community, humans, Qatari, and at least 4 other species living and working together. Welcome to the Coalition, Juno said, leading them through the bustling central hub. We're what happens when people from both sides realize they're being played. How many of you are there? Valeria asked, amazed. On this base? About 200. Throughout contested space. Thousands. Most are deserters, conscientious objectors, or civilians who lost everything and discovered the truth about who was really responsible. Nemec's compound eyes scanned the facility with evident fascination. I had no knowledge of this organization. That's by design, Juno replied. The powers that be on both sides would love nothing more than to wipe us out. We represent the greatest threat to their profitable little war. She led them to a command center where holographic displays showed troop movements, supply lines, and communication networks across contested space. We've been gathering intelligence for years, Juno explained. Piecing together the puzzle of who orchestrated this conflict. And we're close, very close, to having enough evidence to broadcast the truth to both civilizations simultaneously. Nemec has evidence, Valeria said, nodding to her companion. Data from the Qatari archives. Nemec produced the crystal data storage. Incomplete, but significant. A technician, a young Qatari with lighter coloration than Nemec, took the device with reverent care. This could be what we need to complete the pattern recognition. Juno turned to them, her expression serious. You've taken an enormous risk bringing this information out. Both your governments will brand you as traitors if they haven't already. Already calculated that probability, Nemec stated flatly. Acceptable loss for truth. Valeria nodded. 15 years of war, millions dead on both sides, if there's even a chance it was all orchestrated, I had to act. Then welcome to the resistance, Juno said with a grim smile. Hope you don't mind being labeled the enemies of two civilizations. Over the next 3 days, Valeria and Nemec integrated into the coalition's operations. The data Nemec had smuggled out proved invaluable, providing critical links in the chain of evidence the resistance had been building. The pattern that emerged was both elegant and horrifying in its simplicity. A consortium of private military contractors, weapons manufacturers, and corrupt officials from both human and Qatari societies had engineered the conflict. False flag operations, manipulated communications, strategic misunderstandings, all designed to ignite and sustain a war that filled their coffers and consolidated their power. At the center of it all was a name, Helix Dynamics, ostensibly a research firm specializing in advanced weapons technology. In reality, it was a front for the consortium, with branches in both human and Qatari space. They've been playing both sides from the beginning, Juno explained as they reviewed the evidence. Selling defensive technology to humans that just happens to provoke the Qatari, then selling the Qatari countermeasures that escalate the conflict further. The perfect business model, Valeria said bitterly. Create the disease, then sell the cure. Nemec's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation. The founder of Helix Dynamics. Identify. The technician pulled up a holographic profile. A human face materialized before them, distinguished, with silver hair and cold, calculating eyes. Dr. Elias Wexler, Juno said. Former head of the Terran Defense Research Division. Supposedly died in a lab accident 20 years ago. Convenient, Valeria muttered. And his Qatari counterpart? Nemec asked. Another profile appeared, a Qatari with distinctive royal purple markings on its carapace. Hive tactician Zvor, Juno said. Reported killed during an exploratory mission outside Qatari space 18 years ago. They faked their deaths, Valeria realized. Set up their operation in neutral territory, then engineered a conflict that would make them unimaginably wealthy and powerful. While millions died, Nemec added, the translator rendering its voice softer than usual. Juno closed the holographic displays. We're ready to broadcast this evidence across both civilizations. But there's a problem. The consortium knows we exist, Talon spoke up from nearby. They've been hunting us for months. Our intelligence suggests they're planning a major operation to eliminate the coalition before we can expose them. When? Valeria asked. Hours, at most. We've detected unusual movement patterns from privateer vessels known to work for Helix. They're converging on the Praxis sector. Nemec straightened to its full height. Then we accelerate the transmission. It's not that simple, Juno countered. To reach both civilizations simultaneously, we need to access the primary communication relays. The nearest one is on Nexus Point. The trading outpost, Valeria remembered. Can't you transmit from here? Not with sufficient reach. And not with the authentication codes needed to bypass censorship filters, Talon explained. We need physical access to the relay station on Nexus. Juno looked at them intently. We need a team to get to Nexus, upload the evidence to the relay, and authenticate the broadcast. It's essentially a suicide mission. Helix has agents everywhere, and Nexus will be watched. Valeria didn't hesitate. I'll go. As will I, Nemec declared. My authentication codes will access Qatari networks. Juno nodded, not looking surprised. I thought you might volunteer. We've prepared a stealth vessel for exactly this purpose. You'll leave within the hour. As they prepared for the mission, Valeria found a moment alone with Nemec in the armory. You don't have to do this, she said quietly. You've already risked everything bringing out the evidence. The Qatari's compound eyes fixed on her. As have you, Captain Frost. Valeria, she corrected. I think we're well past military formalities. Nemec's head tilted in that now familiar gesture. Valeria, it repeated, the name sounding strange through the translator. My full designation is Nemec Dalkoros. My close kin called me Dal. The sharing of a personal name was significant, Valeria knew. Among the Qatari, true names were reserved for family and trusted allies. Dal, she acknowledged with a smile. Together, then. Together, the Qatari agreed. The stealth vessel skimmed the edge of the Praxis asteroid field, its adaptive hull absorbing rather than reflecting sensor sweeps. In the pilot's seat, Valeria guided them through the treacherous debris with practiced skill while Dal monitored the communication channels. Multiple vessels approaching Praxis, Dal reported. Mixed configuration. Consistent with mercenary fleet. The attack on the coalition, Valeria said grimly. We need to warn them. Already transmitting coded alert, Dal confirmed. But our primary mission remains critical. If we succeed, the consortium loses its power base. Valeria nodded, pushing the engines harder. The coordinates for Nexus Point were locked in, a 12-hour journey at maximum stealth speed. What happens after? She asked suddenly. If we succeed, if the war ends, what then? Dal was silent for a long moment. Unknown. No precedent exists for peace between our species. We're the precedent, Valeria said softly. Before Dal could respond, the sensors blared a warning. 3 vessels had appeared from behind a nearby asteroid, on an intercept course. Consortium hunters, Dal confirmed, reading the sensor data. They anticipated our movement. Valeria swore under her breath, executing an evasive pattern. How? The coalition's security was tight. Logical conclusion. Nexus Point is the only viable transmission site with sufficient range. The pursuing ships fired, energy weapons lancing through space around them. Valeria dove the stealth vessel into a dense cluster of asteroids, using the natural cover to break the pursuer's lock. We can't outrun them all the way to Nexus, she said, thoughts racing. We need another approach. Dal's compound eyes flickered with calculation. The evidence data. Can you pilot alone? Valeria glanced at the Qatari. Yes, but I will take escape pod. Draw pursuers away. You continue to Nexus with data. Absolutely not, Valeria snapped. We're in this together. Logical strategy, Dal insisted. Increases probability of mission success. I'm not sacrificing you. Not sacrifice. Diversion. Dal's translator couldn't convey emotion, but there was something in the way its secondary arms reached toward her that conveyed reassurance. We'll attempt to reach Nexus by alternate route. Another barrage of weapons fire rocked the vessel, shields flaring dangerously. Valeria made a split-second decision. New plan. We both go to Nexus, but not in this ship. She pointed to a massive cargo hauler visible in the distance, lumbering toward the trading outpost. We abandon this vessel, let it run on autopilot to draw them away, and stow away on that hauler. Dal's antennae perked up, the Qatari equivalent of raised eyebrows. Bold strategy. That's how humans won the Battle of Procyon, Valeria grinned. Do the unexpected. They programmed the autopilot to continue evasive maneuvers, then prepared the vessel's single escape pod. As another volley of weapons fire struck their ship, they launched, the tiny pod's thrusters immediately cutting out to minimize detection as they drifted toward the cargo hauler. Behind them, their abandoned vessel accelerated away, drawing the pursuers with it. Sometimes, Dal observed as they drifted silently through space, human irrationality has practical applications. Valeria couldn't help but laugh. I'll take that as a compliment. Nexus Point loomed before them as the cargo hauler approached its final destination, a sprawling space station constructed from mismatched modules and salvaged ship sections. It was a patchwork monument to commerce, where species from across the galaxy came to trade goods, information, and services without regard for the conflicts that raged beyond its neutral borders. Valeria and Dal had spent the 12-hour journey hidden in a maintenance compartment of the hauler, reviewing their plan and preparing for what would likely be their final mission. The communication relay is in the central hub, Valeria said, studying the station schematics they'd downloaded from the Coalition's database. Heavily guarded, but accessible with the right credentials. Which we have, Dal confirmed, displaying the forged access codes Juno had provided. Once we're inside, how long to upload the evidence and authenticate the broadcast? Approximately 7 minutes, Dal answered. 3 to bypass security, 2 to upload, 2 to authenticate across both networks. 7 minutes. Valeria nodded. We can do this. As the cargo hauler docked with the station, they slipped from their hiding place and blended with the stream of workers and passengers disembarking. Valeria had donned civilian clothes provided by the Coalition, while Dal wore decorative coverings that obscured its distinctive scientific caste markings.